Good morning and good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the final CC webinar live session for today, which will include keynote presentations by Sander Barons and Artur Ostrovsky, and also interactive panel moderated by Eric van Stockholm. We would also like to thank Expereo for hosting and ENXO for co-hosting the session. For audience, if you have any question throughout the panel or throughout the keynote presentations, please do use the chat box option. Also, at the end of the session, we will have time assigned just for your questions, where you will be able to ask them verbally by clicking on the raise hand button and allowing me to unmute you. And now I would like to welcome our moderator, Eric van Stockholm, who is also a CC ambassador, to introduce the keynote speakers and later on to moderate the session. Over to you, Eric.
Thank you, Laura, and welcome everybody and out there on Facebook and on this webinar live session. So yeah, we're going to talk about the cloud-based technology. So understanding the fundamental shift and actually what does it mean to the business. Now we have a full schedule ahead, guys, and we have two presentations coming up. Two keynote speaker, Sander Barons from as a chief commercial officer from Expereo, and Artur Ostrovsky as well, CCO, but then from ENXO. So after that, we're going to have a panel discussion with some questions from you guys. So whenever you want to join us, put your questions into the chat, your remarks, comments, and let's move ahead. So Sander, the floor is yours, and please tell us what Expereo actually has to tell us, and how business growth actually can happen. So the floor is yours.
All right, Eric, thank you very much. And let me start with sharing my presentation. Thank you, everyone, for joining today and giving us an opportunity to speak to you. We'll be talking today about thrive and not survive during difficult periods in the global economy. What can you do? Is there a single strategy that can enable your business growth? Get your thumbs off the pause button, but at the same time, get yourself ready and actually accelerate. If you look at where we were about 5 months ago, we saw the businesses worldwide were hitting the pause button, and today I think we can all agree there's a whole new normal starting to take shape. And the question that we now need to ask ourselves, is it now time to proceed and start thinking ahead again? But how are you going to do that? Traditionally, if you're in the C-suite, you would try to make decisions based on the numbers, and you would be looking at different opportunities, possibilities. Can we save our way back to profitability? Do we need to reduce costs? Do I need to lay off people in order to try and survive? If you have the right vehicles for organic growth, so can we support that? Can we change our strategy towards our customers or the way that we operate? And can we do that on our own strength? Or if you have the money or the investors behind you, can you continue to grow, but then through acquisition instead of organically? While you're evaluating all of these options, you can't ignore that behaviors has changed, both in and outside of the office. Where we are today, I think, is a great example, looking at all of us being in a virtual platform, interacting, keynotes, panel sessions. The much discussed topic of working from home. Just before we started the session, we talked about the Dutch government announcing more restrictions again for the next 3 weeks. They're here to stay. There's going to be a new normal. But at the same time, you see the digital transformation starting to accelerate. And we're all now accepting that we're going to have to make choices that we might have left aside if this would not have happened. So as a consequence of this, I think your technology has now proven to be right at the core of your direction strategy, and the results that company can get to or not. And so with the right planning, your company and organization can really leverage technologies not to just survive in during times like these, but to try and put the growth back into your business. And whatever way you look at it, you're going to have to agree with me that a crisis is forcing us to think more innovative, and this accelerates this opportunity to transform. It's not the first time that something like this has happened to the global economy. Not too long ago, back in 2008, there was a huge financial crisis, primarily driven by the banks, and the world economy lost about $22 trillion. Companies like Merrill Lynch, AIG, Royal Bank of Scotland, they all came close to bankruptcy. But what was also very interesting is that you saw that other companies like an Airbnb and an Uber and a WhatsApp, that was actually the time of their start and the growth that they had since. So the way that I see it is that during these type of periods of absolute uncertainty, this is the time to innovate. There's a time for change. You should not hit the pause button, but you should progress. And with companies who are able to embrace this mindset, and as an example, the Ubers and the WhatsApps from back then, they have grown to multi-billion-dollar companies today, and completely changing the markets that they operate in. But at the same time, if you talk to any CIO, they will say that transformation is at the heart of what they're trying to do, being disruptive, being innovative. But the big difference between a company saying that and what you saw that those companies like an Airbnb and Uber did back in the past is that they had the technology centric to everything that they were doing. So if I fast forward back to today, and we're looking at the distressed sectors, so can they benefit, and they should benefit, if they have the same lateral thinking like those platforms did back in 2008. A nice example, and this is also the picture, right? If I look at the retail sector, they can take advantage of technology to enhance the customer experience, both in store and online. I think it won't be too hard to envision that if you're walking into a shop and that you're being identified on your smartphone, a message saying, "Hi there, last time you were here, you bought this product. If you need it again, please come to the 3rd floor and have a look." And while you're walking through the shop to the 3rd floor, digital streams are showing you items of interest, and are interacting with you. And then when you see something that you like, you can quickly simply hit the purchase button on your mobile phone, and you're done. Obviously, technology plays a huge role in underpinning all of these interactions. At the same time, you need a very high quality connectivity, internet, cloud access, and big data to support all of this. And not just the big data, but also a fairly smart artificial intelligence working in the background to make sure that it is delivering the right messages to the right person based on your behavior. So digital transformation, it's a big word out there, and for every company that means something else. I'm focusing a little bit more on the artificial intelligence aspect of my retail example earlier. It can truly help companies to understand the market they operate in, the trends that are in motion, the potential risks to the business, and the behavior of their audiences. All of this has to be fueled by big data hosted in a cloud-based environment, and all of this has to be supported by a network, the internet. And if you really want to leverage all of your investments that you're doing in cloud, AI, big data, you need to first have a definitive IT strategy that allows you to work securely and effectively without compromise. So when you're starting to present this, your CIO might ask you some questions about where are my efficiencies, how can I optimize the performance of the company, can I increase availability of the platforms, and all of these answers they require precise investment advice. Where is this needed, and how can I get the insight that it will bring the returns to my company for the money that I'm willing to spend. I think we can all agree that things have changed. They're changing always, but they've really been accelerating this year particularly. And there's no returning back to the way things were anymore. So none of us can actually afford to continue to hold that pause button that I mentioned earlier, and just expect that things will get better by themselves. We need to accelerate. We need to accept the use of technology, because this is in the core and will make the difference and will be central to your success. Looking at I slipped slides. I see. Looking back again quickly, back at 2008, there's a big difference. So the Ubers and the WhatsApps, they came out with whole new platforms. But if you look today, technology is available. All right? Innovative applications are going to give you the competitive advantage, and can really change your business. But you have to make the right choices, the right technology that can reduce your spend, support your business growth, and can help you address and adapt in the markets that are changing so drastically. And so a digital-centric strategy can really help to thrive your business and not just survive during areas like today. There are enough statistics out there and advices that show you that accepting cloud, accepting changing the way that you work, that there is a huge acceptance in the market today. And this is, I've spoken with many companies over the last weeks. It's very interesting to see that most of them are or had already started their digital transformation and are actually trying to accelerate now during this time rather than to survive. But things are not always as simple as they look like, right? We all know the example of the iceberg. There's a lot to look at. So if you look at where big data and AI can help you to look at your company's health, there's a lot of complex information to deal with. So take, for instance, your data quality and how is data interpreted. You can't even start thinking about using AI until you have your data under control. So how do I combine these sets and give me a simple input so that I can base my decisions on the data that I have? Well, you don't have the time to just sit around and start thinking about these things. You at the same time, you need to continue to run your business. And and you want to do this in the most efficient and customer-friendly and cost-effective way. So choosing the right applications for your company is one thing. But then the next challenge is, how can I ensure that those applications are easily accessible, always available, and perform with the best possible user experience? It's pointless to have a lot of applications out there, but if they're not working, your staff is not as productive as it can be. So it's not going to give you that top line growth or that cost reduction or that improved customer experience that you were aiming for. Well, in order to help you bring that total experience together, you need a partner like Expereo. Over the last 16 years, we've continued to build global business solutions, bringing together the best of local breakout internet, cloud optimization, secure SD-WAN, and inventory management. And all of this is now available through a single digital platform that we call expereo.one. What you're looking at here is just the beginning of our digital journey for you. As Expereo, we're bringing together the cloud, the connectivity, the software-defined and asset management, all so that you can make the right choices for your IT strategy that we just mentioned earlier. Your digital journey starts with identifying and selecting the right applications for your business to operate in the most efficient way, creating that top-line growth, controlling your cost, and giving your customers the best experience. The success of that initiative is underpinned by the right connectivity, cloud, and security solutions. That's a lot of data that you have to handle with, a lot of relationships to manage, and this is where Expereo can really help you. We have those relationships, we have the knowledge and the expertise to support you on your digital transformation journey. And with that, and conscious of time, I want to end today's keynote, but at the same time, open it up for any questions.
Thank you, Sander, and most valuable, and to see what Expereo can do for the market. Actually, it's and the understanding Expereo has, of course, to service and to bring this a total full solution to its customers. Let me quickly check if there are any questions on the chat box on this live session. No, there are not. Let me ask you a question, Sander. Okay. Me telling that it looks like you are equipped. to service and to have all the solutions ready for your customers. Digital transformation, of course, Expereo as well went through the digital transformation. And what can you tell me about that? And maybe you can include a little bit of the strategy motivation behind it.
Yeah, I think it's good to look at what our customers are going through, but thank you for asking the question about the transformation that we're going through. And I think part of Expereo's success has been our awareness that we always need to keep digital centric in what we're trying to do. This global e-commerce system and also the ecosystem of partners, and we've got roughly 3,000 partners worldwide. You can no longer manage that, but just face-to-face meetings. Now, you're going to have to change and disrupt the way that people interact with each other, how we ask questions, but also how can we be of value to each other and understand how we can support. For instance, for all of our suppliers worldwide that help us on the connectivity layers. One of the first things that we rolled out was actually the expereo.one platform in order to show them their footprints that they are representing, the interest of our global customer base in their capabilities that they have. But we're also showing them information that they don't have at their fingertips themselves. So how they compare in their markets regarding their commercial position, regarding the quality of their operations, the performance of their network. And this really helps our partners out there in the world to improve themselves and to make sure that their customers, being our customers as well, that experience gets better. Recently, you might have seen the announcement of an acquisition that we did of ComSafe, and why is that? Because Expereo was already so much focused on the whole digital development, and you saw that with all the initiatives that we had, that somebody out there had come up with the next more flexible, more agile platform, and being able to support a much longer part of the customer journey through automation and APIs, whereby with a lot of the partners that they are now interfacing on connectivity, not to understand just availability and price, but can also support the whole fulfillment, assurance, and billing part, all through digital interfaces. And so we are in the process of integrating that company now to really leverage on that, bringing a lot of that automation back to our customers as well, lowering the cost to quote, but at the same time enhancing that experience, because the human resources that we have can now focus on adding value rather than working more on transactional activities.
Okay, thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. That was Sander Barends, the Chief Commercial Officer from Expereo. Sander, thank you very much, and we're going to hear more from you in the panel discussion.
Absolutely, thank you very much, Eric.
So thank you so much. Now, I'm happy to give the floor actually to an EXO, and as well the Chief Commercial Officer, which is Artur Otrovsky. So Artur, thank you for being here, and you're gonna talk us through a little bit about the SD-WAN as a service, and how you're gonna manage actually the disruption. So I'm happy to hear about this, and I'm absolutely confident that our audience out there would like to listen to it as well. So the floor is yours, Artur, and take it away. Thank you.
Thank you, Eric. Thank you, Sanders, for the very interesting insights. I like the presentation. That actually reminded me of a quote by Winston Churchill: "Never let a good crisis go to waste." Right? So, we should indeed, in those times, look on the opportunities, and I think it is fundamental to treat this 2020 as something that accelerates transformation. So what I will talk about today is just our observations from an EXO side on SD-WAN and how SD-WAN is bringing disruption. What do we do with this disruption? How can we manage it, the disruption? And I will try to focus from really our hands-on experience, where we are helping some of the carriers in going through this change. The reason I'm focusing on relatively narrow subject of all the virtualization, cloud, and the topic of the panel is that, well, this is exactly where we probably can contribute a little bit more. Plus, I only have 10 minutes, so I need to choose a relatively small subject to cover. My name is Artur Ostrowski. I'm Chief Commercial Officer at Nexo today, but I spent 20 plus years in telco industry, working with many of you throughout my roles in a carrier industry, managing the relations between different carriers on different geographies. But today I'm with Nexo, who is a IT consulting partner, Salesforce partner, established 2012, today almost 200 people. But our focus really is telco, and even more specifically, a lot of our customers are coming from carrier telco industry, and we help them actually driving this transformation. Sanders, you talked about the prerequisite to help the customers being your own transformation of your business, and this is exactly what we try to help the carriers to achieve. So if you look on SD-WAN, does it create the opportunity for new people? What does it mean for existing players? And will it erode the market, or will it help growing the market? Is that a game changer? And I think we all see that we've been talking about SD-WAN already for quite some time, but today it starts to be a reality. And for many years, I've seen MPLS really being a standard. And I started in my career in the times where IPsec over the public internet seemed to be a technology of choice, but over the time, for good reasons of managing the quality and having the control of your network, it turned out that actually customers require more predictability, more quality. Thus, the MPLS and technologies like early, frame relay, ATM, or even nowadays, layer 2 Ethernet, created an ecosystem where there was a lot of incentive for network operators to control the network. Really end-to-end, my own network, preferably on net. If not on net, then at least I extend my backbone and I buy a small access solution somewhere in the outskirts where I need to provide the services to my customers. But today, the promise of SD-WAN is that, SD-WAN can provide a better flexibility, better security, better availability, and better performance, can decrease the total cost of ownership. And ultimately, the promise is that SD-WAN can do it actually without this full network control, thanks to aggregation of different technologies from 4G and 5G in a moment, MPLS, Ethernet, Internet, or even a wireless point-to-point technologies. The SD-WAN can deliver this improved user experience while decreasing the cost. And because of this promise, there is actually quite a dynamics which is building on the markets today. And I'm sure you can see that if we ask ourselves, is the disruption around the corner, we can probably in this 2020, we can say that it's not only around the corner, but it's kind of sitting comfortably on our sofa in a living room already. So we have to deal with that. We have to do something about it. Based on the promise, established players, they have to choose what is their strategy. How do they reposition themselves in the new ecosystem? There are new players appearing. People who do not build the network, and they actually think that they can deliver the promise based on the networks which are already there. And maybe even some customers, they think well, maybe we don't need a service providers any longer. Maybe we don't need service integrators, right? With just the right access, we can provide our own WAN, SD-WAN experience. So a lot of these dynamics is actually driving this disruption in the ecosystem. There will be people who will benefit from it, right? Like looking on the Frost & Sullivan report, well, definitely hardware vendors will benefit from it. But nevertheless, the SD-WAN disruption is changing the economy and is driving the growth of that particular economy with the rate of between 40 to 60%, depending on which type of report you will look at. More specifically, I think here we are today in a carrier community. We are talking to among operators. So it is more of a question, what does it mean for operators, whether this is the opportunity, is it a threat? Well, definitely it is a threat if you do nothing. I don't think, and here again, I would agree to the observations of Sanders. We cannot sit there and expect that we will get back to the old normal economy. It will change. So what do you do, and how do you reposition in this ecosystem? Will you be specializing? Will you be just moving into being the access provider, and or you will continue as an integrated service provider? And those choices have consequences, right? There are the different competitive advantage that you need to build in order to be an access provider or a integrated service provider. For the access provider, it's all about the cost, zero touch. For integrated service provider, it's more about how do I bring new services, how do I integrate those new services, how do I build the new partnerships in the ecosystem. But nevertheless, there is one thing that we, from an EXO perspective, believe is a fundamental building block for all those changes to happen, and it's about your BSS strategy. How do you actually look into your IT stack and you enable this promise that is brought by SD-WAN as a technology? How do you enable this to be transferred to the customers? It's not enough to build, to put a SD-WAN platform. If you are still doing your pricing in Excel files and sending the emails within your internal teams, or you're doing a costing with your partners via email, being the partner, the hardware vendor or network vendor or services, professional services vendor. Operational visibility, the SD-WAN delivers much more flexibility. Everything is here and now in real time. So how do you make sure that you make a data-driven decisions in a situation like that? How do you trust your data? That is becoming a fundamental question. But also operational visibility for your customers. So how do you present to your customer in a way that they understand what you provide to them and why? And how do you charge for it and why? And this operational visibility for customers, again, the prerequisite of that is your IT stack, your automation, and making sure that you understand your data and you provide this data in a real time. Things like enabling the self-service. Can you imagine enabling a self-service still having a manual processes behind? Well, that's not what the customers are looking for today, and that's definitely not what will make you in this time of a disruption in the economy. So what I'm saying is, look into your strategy, your IT strategy, your BSS strategy. Look on your digital transformation. There will be a different answers for different type of players. established players, they have to be careful, not to go into cannibalization mode or understanding the migration strategy of their customers. They have to be afraid of not getting into 5-year long transformation projects. So there is one strategy that is to be established for those mature operators. New players, completely different. They can choose easier greenfield, but at the same time they have to manage the scaling question in a different way. Alternative operators, a little bit of both, but they probably can undertake the full transformation. They don't have to worry about the legacy that much. They can still probably transform the legacy into new. And what is good for them is that they have the right mindset and reputation. So by the end of the day, I believe that what I would like to everyone remember after the session today is, well, don't sit, don't wait, act. Look for the right partners and make sure that you build your position in the new ecosystem, and you actually leverage the partners to achieve that. So with that, Eric, I'm handing over back to you.
Thank you very much, Arthur, and thank you for sharing your thoughts. And absolutely, it's in line with what Sander mentioned. Guys, let's not sit down. Let's stand up and move. Now, as we're talking about carriers here, and in adopting SDN and also NFV, I mean, carriers will need to have a clear vision on how the virtualization of their network would support their business goals, right? So with the dawn of an IoT era, and even more, I mean, cloud services, big data analysis, HD video streaming, and so on and so on, I think carriers need to ensure that the network architecture is capable of ensuring faster time to market to support these services, whilst optimizing operational performance and reducing their cost. However, despite the several benefits, of course, and achievable cost savings, operators still need to face actually with the key challenges like performance, security, multi-vendor integration, human capital. So how can you actually make sense of it all? How do we do it?
That's a big question, right, Eric? So I just want to know.
I just want to know what's out there, what's needed, and how can we make how can we make the perfect milkshake?
Yeah, I think there is a lot to be covered, really, to put it right into actionable steps that you can execute. I think that you have to start with the vision, right? You really need to understand what is going to be your position on the market 5 years from now, right? And we call it continual transformation. So don't go into transformation just to change one piece of it, right? Of course, tactically, you will always be going after piece, because otherwise it's not manageable. But you need to have a plan, and as the result of that, the pieces and the steps you are making along the line are actually leading towards this goal. But let me mention something that I believe is a fundamental, and many people talk about it, but I think it's never enough. It's about people. It's about the culture. It's about enabling people to believe that first of all it's needed, right? It's not like, okay, we've been doing this all over, for the past 10 years. There is a natural hesitation to change, and changing the culture in the organization, I think, is a huge enabler for achieving those goals of the transformation ahead of you.
Okay, thank you. So human capital is by the end of the day still a very important factor, despite all the AIs, virtual reality, and what have you. We're still important enough, right?
Absolutely. I think this is where you start, right? And this is where technology should follow. That's my strong belief.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Artur Otrowski, Chief Commercial Officer at the Nexo, live to us, guys, from Warsaw, Poland. So thank you very much, and Sander, thank you as well for your keynote presentation. Let me move immediately to the panel discussion, guys, because we're talking about the understanding the fundamentals, actually, and the fundamental shift of what it means to the business. So building new networks with software-defined networks, you know, betting on them, on those. So what's the impact? Partnering versus actually, you know, buying the cloud expertise, the pros and the cons, and moving to the cloud revenue opportunities, actually, more and more and more. So I cannot do this alone, and I'm very honored and very happy to have next to Sander and Artur on the panel, Bernard Puech. Bernard, bonjour. How are you doing?
Bonjour, guten Tag. Very well, thank you. So hopefully the internet connection will stand up. I think normally it's pretty good, so you should be fine.
You are more than fine. Thank you, and welcome being on the panel, ladies and gentlemen. Bernard Puech, he's the head of the global internet strategy at Telstra. So welcome, and fantastic having you.
Nice to speak to you again.
Thank you so much. Servé Bunnik, so as Deputy Director of the EU Operations and Product Director at CITIC Telecom. So back to Amsterdam, welcome.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. A good afternoon for most of us. So.
Absolutely. Thank you for being here, Servé. Let's go to Luxembourg. Antonio.
Thank you for inviting me. Good afternoon, everybody.
Ladies and gentlemen, Antonio Bove is the Director of the Fixed Data Sales at the SES, live from Luxembourg. And of course, we have Artur from Warsaw, we heard before with his presentation, and Sander Barens from Expereo. So, gentlemen, and let me start with Servé, with you. The current landscape tell us what we are talking about when we say SDN and FNV, and what are we talking about for the people who don't know, and then give us a little bit of, let's say, hold on to the context.
Well, personally, I think that the most important thing is always to look at why are we doing stuff in that sense. So, as we already have discussed, is a crisis is accelerating, I think, the demand that was already existing in agility. So flexibility to change and everything else. If you then look from an operator perspective, what SDN and NFV can bring to us, I think that's very critical to that. So SDN in its easiest deployment is intra-carrier and cross-carrier potentially. What I want to add to that in this dimension, if we look about flexibility, it's not only on this network level thing, but I think in the telecom industry, you see a very strong growth in APIs, in connecting BSSs, OSSs. So in principally giving an agility and flexibility in a complete customer journey of the end customer and also for other carriers. So I think that's an important part for the SDN part. If you look at network function virtualization, so inside out, if you first talk about what you can do by yourself, you also, to serve your customers, and it could be carriers or enterprise, and your flexibility, you need to also put your OSS and BSF in a virtual environment, whatever that may be, in a cloud, in a public cloud, or in your own cloud environment. That depends a little bit about what kind of functionality you have and how you have that done. And also, you will see that the services that you provide towards your customers, you also need to be able to bring that virtualization towards them. But even more important, as Sander showed in his example, you see that customers are not saying, I am putting everything into a single cloud. And Sander was only pointing out mainly infrastructure as a service providers. You will see a mix of these elements. So what's important for a carrier, I think also, is to make sure that the network function virtualization is cross multi-platform. So if you do something with SD-WAN, if you do something with security, make sure that you are able to also deliver that on Amazon, deliver that on Azure, on Google, wherever, and also on your own clouds in that sense. So from a network virtualization level, I think that's also very important. Next to that, and what we'll also discuss, we have something called SD-WAN. And SD-WAN, in my view, is almost a separate and potentially more disruptive technology, because SD-WAN in itself is an overlay technology, which means that anybody without any network can do it, you know? It's other elements like the customer journey, the optimization, the flexibility, and the way how you use it, and how you use the data out of the SD-WAN, which is very interesting. And specifically, we are also using AI on the SD-WAN data to help customers predict what the future will bring in that sense. All these elements, especially if you look at static telecom CPC, it's also important to, with all this virtualization, you still have to be in line with local legislation. So for example, in our focus markets, Russia and China, we deliver SD-WAN solutions to other carriers to be in line with that. But virtualization is nice, internet is nice, but unfortunately, countries are putting it more and more together. So to summarize, so I think that SDN in combination with API is key if you have your own network, and network function virtualization is critical for yourself and for your customers across multiple clouds to deliver this agility that yourself and your customer are looking for.
Thank you, Servé. Bernard, also from an operator point of view, from Telstra point of view, what are your views on it?
So we've seen, so we kind of pretty much a first mover with some NFV. So we started to build a platform for it also already about 5 years ago. I mean, as was said, the key things we've seen is just the flexibility of it, which fits in with the current environment, and there's some kind of useful, interesting use cases just recently where NFV has shown its value. One of the especially in the core, right? So I mean, NFV can be used both in the core for kind of extending network on a short-term basis, but also on the edge. So it's kind of different problems to deal with in both. So looking at it from the core, so we allow people to put NFVs in particular core nodes around the world, and we've seen that being used just recently, specifically for corporates where they did have a network, and suddenly they went from 10% of their people being offsite, working offsite, to pretty much 100%. So this was putting huge loads on their firewalls, as suddenly everything went from everyone working in the office to everyone working at home. Now, the NFV gives you the ability basically to roll out an additional firewall without having to do any truck rolls or you know, ordering. The ordering can all of that can be virtualized. So we've had customers able to implement massively more firewall capability virtually, and thereby get themselves out of a hole, as suddenly they had to support much more users working from home. Also, kind of this whole, you know, migration from a network where most of the data is in the network to migrating that into the cloud. Having a virtualization capability and a flexibility that allows you to, you know, stand up capacity, stand up a virtualized network device and connect it to the cloud just for the time frame that's required to do certain migrations and stuff. That's kind of pretty useful, right? Now, on the access side, now in the core, we found that not to be too much. Kind of NFV doesn't pose huge problems because you can have vast quantities of processing, you know, white box servers stashed in central places. But what we're also seeing is the implementation of some NFV also in the access of the network, and that's to kind of virtualize some things like riverbeds and firewalls and other things in the edge. Now, some of that had some initial issues with, on the edge, you don't necessarily have the same amount of processing power. You could be limited. And then if you kind of suddenly loading NFVs onto a box without thinking about it, you can get into situations where, different devices are competing for processing resources. So initially that caused, we saw some issues where, vendors were pointing at each other saying, oh no, it's their fault, no, it's their fault. But ultimately it's just a limited amount of processing resource to manage multiple networking devices.
Okay, thank you.
Some of the things we've seen.
Okay, and Antonio, I mean, let's dive a little bit. If we bet on virtual networks, what is the impact? And maybe we can bridge this also as well to to let's say business models, partnering versus buying cloud expertise, and maybe you can give us some pros and cons, and also, do you think operators can reach a common standard to achieve interoperability? Is there something? I mean, it's a big question, but maybe you can address a few points of it.
I mean, for sure, from SCS perspective, we have been embracing SDN at full speed, and we realized that the impact will be major. Of course, it's all about automation. It's all about increasing the speed of pushing, if you like, commands into the network. It's also a possibility to integrate networks. So today we provide satellite connectivity. We will be launching the very first software-defined satellite network. It will be launched from next year, and we'll be providing gigabit of throughput with low latency. That at the end is designed to be integrated with the cloud, and at the end to be integrated also with the terrestrial network. That's why for that we decided to embrace the cloud integration, and also with an SD-WAN solution, we have been actually able to provide a solution that can balance between terrestrial communication and the satellite in order at the end to provide a seamless service. What we see from our perspective is that more and more networks are becoming hybrids. All technologies, they have their own advantages, but there are locations and there are situations where copper lines or fiber or fixed wireless is not able to provide either the quality or the speed that you need, or the availability, because in some cases those communications, specifically when you look at in some regions, the capacity is not available. So we provide a solution that is able at the end to address communication needs that are increasing dramatically, are using also completely different business models, because at the moment the growth of usage-based pattern on, if you like, transaction kind of business models are becoming more and more mainstream. So that's why it's important that we operate with those business models. How do we operate in that? If we partner, definitely we have been deciding to take the route of partnering. We have been announcing recently a partnership with Microsoft Azure. We'll be coming their own partnership for the Azure Orbital program. And we are now working very, very closely with Amdocs to distribute our software-defined infrastructure that will allow highest automation. And then at the end of the day, we'll also improve the security and overall resiliency of our networks, integrated with the terrestrial services, so working very closely with our carriers.
Okay, thank you, Antonio. Sander, what is the impact that you are seeing, and especially on the business models? What's happening out there?
Yeah, I think we all agree that enterprises as well as carriers, a lot of their information is being consumed by some sort of cloud services. If I look at a typical global enterprise, they have multiple dozens, up to sometimes 60 plus more cloud-based applications running in their network, and some of them can be extremely local. And we recently had a nice example of one of our clients on a global MPLS having issues with the payroll in Thailand, because that was actually outsourced to a local cloud. So how do you make sure that as a managed service provider that you can help your customer to be able to have the best performance to all of these different cloud applications? And I think if you are a managed service provider, if you are a carrier, you can't start creating partnerships with every possible cloud around the world. It's simply way too fragmented in order to really benefit from that. I do think between the carriers and the managed service providers, it makes perfect sense to start to work together a lot better. And there's a lot of technology out there today that can help you to work together. APIs, NFV, SDN, but also SD-WAN. Using it all in the right order, you can take a lot of the pains away for eventually the enterprise by working together. I think traditionally carriers have always been trying to be king of the hill. We can do it all ourselves, and if you stay within your MPLS environment, you probably can. But now that there is so much out there in such a fragmented environment, now you're going to have to work towards an ecosystem of partners in order to bring a total picture.
Clear. Thank you, Sander. Arthur, what do you bake of this? What can you bake all of it?
Yeah. So the one thing that particularly interests me most is how the whole changes of technology is actually impacting the way people do business, right? And one of the largest changes to what the telecom world or carrier world was 10 years ago and what it is becoming is, to me, is the need for partnering, right? I think people do understand that the times where I could have everything under my control and that was the key success factor, that is gone. That is becoming a history. Today, really the key success factor is how do I even aggregate different elements, some of the partnered cloud, some of my own cloud, making a hybrid scenario of that. But really the key value proposition that I'm doing, that I'm offering to my clients is simplifications of the world we are living in, right? There was a nice picture on Sander's presentation where customers are expecting a simplified world, right? They want I don't know, iPhone type of experience in a B2B type of environment. In order to provide this type of simplified experience, there is actually much bigger complexity behind, and this much bigger complexity also involves more partners collaborating together. So to me, one of the very, very practical demonstrations of the need for partner collaboration is the standards, Eric, that you mentioned in your question. Can we expect standards to happen? And we know that telco was maybe not the best example of promoting standards historically, but I can see a tangible change today. As an EXA, we help people building APIs, and we have scenarios where people really want to run zero-touch processes for quoting, ordering, serviceability, or some of the assurance processes through zero-touch, through APIs. We have been working a lot and spending a lot of time, and customers been spending a lot of money on building those APIs because vast majority of that was built on a proprietary API definitions. But I can see today the dynamics really changing to promoting the standards. We are a big believer in MEF, Sonata standardization, and actually for one of the customers for the zero-touch provisioning of the FTTH access, we are running a POC for a Sonata-based frictionless access. So, and I can see a much more interest among carriers in collaborating towards those standards. So here and now, I think this is one of the largest changes that I personally see when I compare situation today to what it was 10 years ago. People understand it's more collaborations needed. They embraced it, and they try to simplify the world for their customers by managing and using the technology to manage the complexity among partners.
Servé, thank you, Arthur. Servé, do you see the same? Is Arthur right when he talks that we see more and more partnering? Actually, it's inevitable, and we see it happening more and more.
No, absolutely. You know, the partnering is required because end customers, where it all begins with, you know, they are spreading around their IT resource. They are spreading everything around. They are even looking, and that's a trend we didn't discuss yet, but if you look at edge computing, that is pushing a lot of stuff also to the outside world. So, and then you need to work with local parties or whatever to give small clouds or edge computing environments or whatever to make it work. And then, in my view, it becomes even more complex. And then if you talk about collaboration, the security challenge that you will have in that spread around of information, of the spread around of connectivity, combined with the fact that it needs to be agile, quick, flexible, creates a huge security challenge for also the operators to serve our customers. The attack surface, you know, goes through the roof. And with the growth and rollout of 5G, you will see that edge computing and edge AI will increase even further. So it will create an ecosystem, even when not using 5G, but using any form of public connectivity, you will see an ecosystem created that could also be applied there. So we also believe that working together with security partners and with all kinds of other partners, that's what you need to do to make it happen, to, in the end, fulfill the demand of our end customers and also of the partners in between, being in this case the carriers, also through the complete API stack that you need to get everything zero touch, quickly, agile, and everything else. So I totally agree with that. Yes. Okay.
So Bernard, if the gentlemen are right, do you think that operators can reach the common standard to achieve the interoperability? Is it something that you are looking into, or is it going a step too far yet?
Look, I think there's beginnings of it. Let's be honest. You know, we've already seen some interoperability already happening in the internet exchange environment. We've seen with AMSEX, VKIX, and Links getting together. We've certainly managed to partner successfully on an API basis with some of the data center providers, because in an environment where you need zero-touch provisioning of connectivity, the network is not the end. You need to actually go down to the data center in most cases, and that requires us to partner with those providers. Yeah, and most of the data center providers, I think, are starting to realize the requirement to do that. So yes, we are seeing it. Carriers into working with each other, it's kind of the beginning, I would say. It's not. Yeah, I mean, even the implementation of SDN is very variable, I would say, from one carrier to the next, and each carrier is kind of looking at it in different ways. Some you know, AT&T in the US has looked at doing zero touch down to the CPE, etc. Some kind of more focused on the backbone. Some people not really getting there at all yet. So it's a mixed bag, I'd say, in the carrier environment. But it's starting for sure.
Okay, thank you so much. Now, guys, and we're heading slowly a little bit to the end. And what I'm always really curious about is to understand. And Antonio, maybe I can give the floor to you first. Is what is out there? What is next to expect, actually? So let's tip a little bit on the future. Well, what do you see is out there, and what will hit us, and will come to us, actually, or will enable us more, or will make us more happier, or how does the future look, Antonio?
Well, if we look at our recent past, I mean, at least the introduction, we are all living a new norm, and the new norm is actually, we have been suspending all our travels, so we have been working completely differently, working from home, so, and also having much more remote engagements. There is a negative side of that because, I mean, the economy has been heavily impacted. So then all the, let's say, the transportation industry or restoration, I mean, restaurants and cities are now getting a bit impacted from that economically. But I think that the positive side of things is that we have been finding a new way of living. I think that we appreciated this new norm. Just from the environmental perspective, we have seen all the benefits. Our quality of life in some form has been improving. And we realized that everything that we thought it was impossible, specifically doing remotely, now it's becoming more possible. So this means that the new future is a major change that will happen in all type of services. Now the governments are realizing that the digital change has to be accelerated. All the services will be dramatically accelerating. This means allowing more of self-service, working more on transaction and working more on cloud. So those are three trends that, if you like, we achieve at the point of no return. So there is no point around. This means that then providing proper communication on the transport layer, on the access layer, this is now dynamic, becoming more mainstream. And this is, if you like, a bit of a challenge now to the carriers, to the telcos, because now they have some rollout of services, but now they need to power, they need to increase the backbone, and then they need also to be able to scale the services there. So the future is going straight in this direction. And I think it's beneficial for us. This will be, at the end, ultimately beneficial for us in terms of economic impact. We need to change definitely our infrastructure. We need to change our core by all means. And we need also to start changing our human capital. So the skill set that we have now is something that we will be changing dramatically in the future. I recall a statement from the BMW CEO that was saying that now I need to convert my mechanical engineer in IT engineer. And imagine from an automotive company, what is the challenge there? I think that now the new norm is about to be more integrated with the cloud. So we need to change completely the way we design products, we design business processes, we deliver services. And this will be at the end the challenge that we will keep us all busy for the next, I would say, 5 to 10 years.
So all IP and all IP, yeah. Right? Okay, thank you very much, Antonio. Servé, what do you see happening, coming to us in the near future? What do you expect?
Well, I partly already said that. I think that with the rollout of 5G, you will see a new ecosystem appearing that will not only impact the mobile environment, it will impact also the fixed environment. And I think that will accelerate even further the digitization of companies. And I think that this crisis will create a lot of thinking in a lot of boardrooms about how can we further digitize our portfolio, our services, and create our dependency less on the real world and more on the virtual world. 2 reasons for that. First of all, I think it creates way more flexibility. And the other thing is, if you can create a value add out of virtual things, you know, copying bits is not the cost, well, at least not at this point in time. The same thing if you look at a software model. And I think that companies more and more will look about how can we make that more flexible? How can we make it more virtualized? How can we make our value add coming more from that direction? So I think that's what you will see with the end customer environment, which means, bottom line, you will see way more flexibility demand on operators, networking and everything else. The big question that I have is, because we saw, for some people, the pandemic is a black swan, for others not. But what will happen if we have this full dependency on internet combined with private connectivity and the internet will be hacked or partly hacked? What will happen then? How will companies need to react to that? Are they already going to think about it? Are they going to looking at how can we overcome it? That will be a big question, because it's not multiple carriers that you're talking about and the internet. No, the trend will be to put everything on the internet. The big question is, will we have a fundamental outage of 3 days on the internet on a global basis? That will be very interesting. What then will happen to this world and to this economy? So that's the last thing, and maybe a little bit sober, but it also, I think, oopsie. I think it also will. I think the question needs to be asked. So people will start thinking also about that, about how you want to deal with that in that sense. Can we survive that? So, but that's a little bit more philosophical almost about what then will happen.
Thank you so much, Servé. Thank you. Thank you so much. Bernard, how do you and Telstra see the future? Well, what's coming? What are you preparing already? Because you're always preparing something.
So look, I think it's kind of interesting. We had in fact, last night I was on Outlook, and there was a global outage of the Outlook server. I don't know if you saw that.
Yes.
Which was about 11 p.m. European time. Yeah, I mean, you kind of realize how dependent you are on some of this technology. But on the other hand, what you do see is that the resources that these companies who are specialized on it are able to put towards fixing it. You know, the outage was, I think, a total of around 4 hours from what I can see. So to a certain extent, we're giving, yeah, the organizations have a very high reason for getting things fixed very quickly in that case. So certainly we think that there's nothing that can stop this migration happening anymore. The question is more what do we put around it? And what we are seeing is businesses looking with an internet-based network to have a level of assurance that the performance to different cloud solutions is what their users expect. And now in Europe that may not be so difficult because the distances aren't that great between any user and a cloud platform. In our part of the world, you know, with literally 5, 6, 7,000 kilometers between potentially a user and a cloud platform, especially in a failure scenario, then you kind of have to think about those things. So what we're seeing is that there's more opportunity to put around services a level of assurance that the performance to particular cloud nodes around the world is maintained at a certain level, and providing customers with a visibility of that too.
Okay, so thank you, Bernard. Arthur, tell us, how do you see the future? What's coming?
Yeah, so just to add what was already discussed, well, definitely there is no coming back, as Antonio said. It's a new world. We have to live with that, and together with some technology disruptions, that some of the things, a part of what I already mentioned, that I expect. I think I will see more changes on the landscape when it comes to the players. I think there will be more new logos appearing. Some logos might disappear, and definitely there will be more M&A, I think, within a carrier industry.
More consolidation. That's what you're saying.
Consolidation, but also M&A as a way to manage the disruption and the threats coming from disruption. So I believe this is to be expected within the next couple of years.
Okay.
We've been talking about the need for flexibility, which leads to automation, but I think also flexibility needs to come with the need for reliance on the data and the data quality. So I think even with the COVID, we are forced to work more on a facts and figures, data-driven decisions. Before I could go to and discuss over the coffee and make a decision, you know, with my colleague. Today, when I'm working from home, many more decisions are actually based on facts and figures and what I can see instead of just physical interactions with people around. Yeah, so that would.
Okay. Okay, thank you, Arthur. Sander, it's your turn. Some famous last words about the future. What's gonna hit us? What's coming at us? Please tell us in the audience.
Yeah,
thank you.
Well, being the last one to close the panel for today, so much is said already, and it is all true. I think we are on the road now towards change, and that is simply a fact. It does mean, we talked about it, that as carriers they need to start working differently together. Automation plays a really big role in order to lower the cost of transactions typically, but also enhance that whole experience. And I think we're only still at the beginning of that. If you look at software-defined, particularly software-defined WAN, then what we're focusing on also there, the steps have been made. I have to agree with Arthur. We do foresee still consolidation in the market there. There's too many technologies. There's too many fragmentation there. It's very hard as an enterprise to understand what you're actually gonna get. So there we're gonna get some clarity as well. None of this we can do without some proper standards, standards on how to interface with each other on API level, but also on networking level. So more collaboration, but yeah, try to keep it simple and don't be afraid to make a mistake every now and then. Yeah, we're not going to get it all right. There's no such thing as a silver bullet. So we're going to have to try things out while we go on this joint digital transformation.
And let's start moving, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, so thank you so much, Sander. Thank you very much. And ladies and gentlemen, we have to close here. I'm sure we could go on for hours and hours, but everything has an end for now. But we will talk more about these topics and others. So we were discussing the understanding of the fundamental shift and what it means actually to the business, and we're pointing into the SDN NFV and of course the SD-WAN. And I would like to say thank you and a big thank you, and I was very honored to have Servé, Antonio, Bernard, Sander, and Arthur, and the last two also. Special thanks for hosting both of you this panel session and sharing with us your expertise actually towards the market, and I would like to say a big thank you to all of you out there on the webinar live, on Zoom, on Facebook. So I would like to together with all my panelists, I would a big thank you. Stay safe, stay, we all love you. So thank you so much. Back to the studio in Berlin to Laura, and ciao for now.
Thank you.
Eric. Dear participants, we are at the end of this webinar session, and I would like to thank all our keynote speakers and panelists who joined our webinars yesterday and today. I also would like to thank our audience and, of course, Eric for moderating all our panels. I would also like to acknowledge and say thank you to our sponsor, Sparkle, Irideos, Expereo, Bees, and Nexo. During these 2 days, more than 600 telco executives, industry experts, and partners got together to join our virtual CC Telco Infrastructure Summit 2020 to watch our webinars, CC webinar live sessions, and network online. This panel will be soon available on our CC Media portal. If you're interested to support us and sponsor one of our future branded webinars, please contact our team. Wish you all a good health, stay safe, and I will see you in our future with both physical and virtual events. Take care.
Thank you.